It's Tuesday, February 28. In the headlines, Prime Minister Andrew Holness speaks about his visit to Haiti. In business news, CHS acquires Medical Associates Hospital. Regionally in Barbados, USAID project to benefit Caribbean energy sector. Internationally, government begins rebuilding for millions left homeless in Turkey. And in sports, we take a look at some of the highlights from Manchester United's victory over Newcastle United. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the Caribbean community wants to see Haiti fulfill its promise as the first free black nation and is committed to working with Haiti to find a path to a resolution. Prime Minister Andrew Holness led a Caricom delegation to Haiti on Monday for high-level talks with government officials and civil society representatives in Haiti. The discussions were aimed at identifying a path towards consensus building for the restoration of political stability and, as well, security stability in Haiti. Mr. Holness reported afterwards that each group expressed the urgency of national security and the need to safeguard the Haitian population from gangs. Mr. Holness, in a post on his Facebook page, notes that his observation is, quote, that Haiti has active and vocal members across all stakeholder groups who are committed to bringing an end to the current instability in the country, end quote. He furthers, quote, however, the road to consensus has been long and must be achieved in order to realize meaningful progress around which the international community can coalesce, end quote. Dr. Chiari E. Ndumele from Johns Hopkins Medicine says obesity is a complex problem with multiple causes, but among the likely suspects, sugar is high on the list. As sugar consumption has increased, so too has our national waistline. In Jamaica, the Global School-Based Student Health Survey 2017 notes that 3 out of every 10 children in Jamaica are either overweight or obese, and this number is rising dramatically. It says childhood obesity in Jamaica has increased by nearly 64% in 7 years, and high consumption of sugar has been linked to this health crisis. The Heart Foundation of Jamaica has been working to educate Jamaicans about balancing their sugar intake.
So sometimes labels can be misleading. Some are obvious and some are not so obvious. So it's not just sodas that we're talking about in this campaign. It's also some so-called fruit drinks that are not really fruits. And so if people knew how to read a label, then they will be able to figure out for themselves how many teaspoons of sugar is in that product. But not just sugar. We're also broadening the discussion. So for example, salt. Many products have a lot of salt in it. And we know that we're not supposed to have more than 1 teaspoon of salt a day, all told. It can be less if you have certain conditions, but generally speaking, so 2,400 milligrams. So how do we know? How do we know what the label is saying? If I'm going to have this product, okay, that's half my salt intake for the day or more than 100% of my salt intake. So reading labels is very important, and it's quite tricky because the labels, honestly, I think those labels are made so that people don't know what's on them, quite frankly, because even people who are educated and you would think would know have a little difficulty. So they're not simple. They're not simple enough. I know changes are being made in that regard to try and simplify them. But even if you learn how to read the calorie count and how to look how much the ingredient is and look how many servings is in the bottle and multiply, because another thing, you may see a label that says 15 milligrams of sugar, 15 grams of sugar. But when you look at the top, it's 2.5 servings in that container. So you just look at the one line of sugar and salt and you think, well, that's it. But it's not. You have to look how many servings is at the top.
Okay, so Ms. Shen is going to show us an example of a normal label, and she's going to teach us how to read the labels in general when you go to the supermarket. So let's get right to it.
Well, as we see from the poster here, how to read a nutrition label, we have number 1 where it says start here. So the first thing we need to look at is the serving size. In this case, it says 1 cup or 228 grams. But if you notice, this container has 2 servings. That means that all the other values that we're going to discuss, you have to double. So don't forget that, it's very important. The second point, number 2, is to check the calories. Now remember that for the average person, you don't need more than 2,400 calories a day to function, you know. Now, if you're on a weight loss program or you're diabetic, you may have a different number, but just for the average person, 2,400 calories. Now, this particular product that you see here has 250. So you have to bear that in mind. Now, remember, this is just one product that you're having for the day. So if this has 250, as a matter of fact, it's not 250, it's 500. Because remember, we said 2 servings. So this product in front of us has 500 calories in one product. Now, there goes 500 calories out of your 2,400. So you have to bear that in mind. So check the calories and have it in reference to the rest of the items you're going to eat for the day. Then we have some nutrients here that we need. Then there is cholesterol, which is okay in moderate quantities, and sodium. All of these things, except for the trans fat, we do need, but it's the quantity. Now, the right-hand side, we see daily value. That's a very helpful thing because it tells us what % of our daily value that is. So it gives you an idea. But guess what? Remember, we have to double it. Suppose this is a snack. Then, my goodness, 500 calories and you're just on a snack. What about breakfast, lunch, dinner? So we have to be mindful. Then we go down the line. Number 4 says get enough of these nutrients, and it also speaks to dietary fiber at the top. Dietary fiber is very healthy. This particular product doesn't have any, but dietary fiber is good for us because it helps digestion, it helps us to regulate the food through and so on.
So how much sugar should we intake per day?
All right, so it is 4 grams in 1 teaspoon of sugar, and we're allowed 6 teaspoons for women and 9 for men. So we have to calculate the sugar here. So we have 10 grams here. So that is 2. So no, it's still in your daily allowance. 10 grams would still be in your daily allowance. And then we have to look at the vitamins. Vitamin A, vitamin C, calcium and iron to get enough. Now those tend to be not so much of concern when we come to weight loss and healthy living. So the main thing to look for then is the servings at the top, the serving size, the calories. Calories, this one tells you calories from fat as well. Remember, you can get calories from many sources, but you want to get calories from products that are healthy. So, for example, you're going to get calories from sugary sweetened beverages, but those are empty calories, so they don't actually contribute anything to your health at all. That seems to me a waste of calories. Whereas if you had a piece of yam and you got calories from that, then that would be healthy because you'd have vitamins and minerals and roughage as well. So the calories the type of calories we had is important. If you had 2,400 calories for the day in something that didn't have any of the other nutrients, then clearly that wouldn't be healthy for your body to maintain its function. Every single time you drink, it's a sugary sweetened beverage. Or let us say this was a soda, and you drank this amount of soda for the day, then it would have come to 52. But remember, it's not sodas alone. A lot of the so-called fruit juices are just as bad. A lot of them are made from concentrate. And when we speak of sugars, we're speaking of added sugars. We're not speaking about natural sugars. We're speaking about added sugars. So this amount of drink for the day, which is a sugary sweetened beverage, this is the amount of sugar. Now, you would never sit there with a teaspoon and eat 52 teaspoons of sugar for the day. But when you have liquid sugar, it's easier to go down. You don't realize that you're drinking it. And of course, it overloads our body and gives our pancreas a lot of work. Eventually, persons end up with diabetes. Now, this is the average size drink here that we would have. The average size beverage has about 17.5 teaspoons in it. So this is the amount of sugar. Now, it can vary. There are some flavored waters that may have 9 teaspoons, which is 9 teaspoons for men, remember, and 6 for women for the day. So the flavored waters will be at the top end of that scale, given it's one item. But it goes from that. This is 17.5. But there are drinks out there with 24 teaspoons of sugar in this size, because we have been doing a market survey about them. But then let us not forget box juice, because that is another thing, especially our children drinks the box juice. Now, the problem with these box juice is that, you see, we have made this label with oranges, but the only oranges in it is on the picture. There's really nothing in it except sugar and a little flavoring. And it has 14 teaspoons of sugar. So we have to be mindful that this in itself is not healthy. And sometimes we have these small boxes here of Tetra Packs, various flavored juice, and this will have 5 teaspoons of sugar. Remember, you're allowed 6 as a woman and 9 for men. Children are even less. So you can imagine that this is not healthy either. So the problem is that we have to find a graphic way to translate what the labels are saying into reality so that people know what they are consuming.
Time now for the business report with Danita Rodney.
Caribbean Health Systems Limited, CHS, is the new owner of Medical Associates Hospital. The transaction, which closed recently under a takeover bid, will see CHS taking over the operations of the private hospital in Kingston. The group, which consists of Novamed Incorporated, First Rock Real Estate Investments, and Health Ventures Limited, initiated a takeover in May 2022 and says it intends to transform the 60-year-old hospital into a national icon of quality healthcare. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Monday, February 27, the US dollar sold for an average of $154.62. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $114.09. The pound sterling traded for $187.34, and the euro sold for $164.83. In JSE trading, the JSE index declined by 2,606 points. The junior market index advanced by 8 points. The combined market index declined by 2,350 points. And the All Jamaican Composite Index declined by 4,790 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 106 stocks, of which 39 advanced, 43 declined, and 24 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Access Financial Services Limited, and Berger Plains Jamaica Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Verbal Preference, Barita Investments Limited, and Blue Pearl Group Limited. Trading firm were CAC 2000 Limited, Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited, and Siboney Group Limited. The overall volume leaders were Foswich Company Limited with over 3 million units, Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares, and Regency Petroleum Company Limited with over 1 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Calypso Macro Index Fund was the only active security posting 496 shares. Zero securities traded on the Barbados Stock Exchange. In regional business, a total of 42 Guyanese businesses had their products on display at the Barbados' AgriFest, the country's premier agricultural exhibition held at the weekend in Bridgetown. It allowed local, regional, and international producers to showcase their products.
Reeves, I'm from Guyana. My company name is Joe for Products. The two products that I'm displaying here today at AgriFest is sweet pepper jelly and pepper stew. The sweet pepper jelly can be used with anything. I use it with porridge, I use it with cornflakes, you can use it as a topping, a glaze, a filling, and whatever pleases your taste buds. Same thing with the pepper stew. You can marinate your meat, you can use it as a meal. You can do anything with it once your taste buds cannot tolerate it. I'm really happy to be here because a lot of persons are visiting my table and they're very much interested in pepper stew, sweet pepper jelly. So that in itself, even though they didn't do a purchase, that alone in itself shows that it's something that interests their thoughts, their sight, and as a result of that, they may come back and purchase it. So I'm really happy to be here.
Shauna Lam, and I'm the General Manager for the Guyana Marketing Corporation. The government of Guyana, through the Guyana Marketing Corporation and Go Invest, has facilitated the participation of 43 agro-processors, farmers and manufacturers at the Barbados AgroFest. Currently, we're displaying over 550 different products, of which 250 are new from last year's exhibition. Some of the products range from teas, spices, seasonings and sauces, and skincare products, as well as produce.
Market data for oil. Oil prices rose, erasing the previous session's losses as hopes for a solid economic rebound in China offset worries about further U.S. interest rate hikes, dragging on consumption in the world's biggest economy. Brent crude futures were up 87 cents to $83.32 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude futures gained $1.18 to $76.89. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, in the Cayman Islands, starting March 1, confirmation PCR testing for COVID will no longer be required, and the COVID testing centers will end operations on all 3 Cayman Islands. More from CIG TV.
Public health officials add that LFT positive online reporting will no longer be required as well. Now, health officials continue to recommend that cases and primary contacts of cases of COVID-19 continue to follow existing advice on isolation and testing. Vaccinated and unvaccinated persons should isolate for 6 days and leave isolation on day 7 if they have no further symptoms. Primary contacts should do daily lateral flow testing, and those persons can continue their usual activities. Now, a reminder that the day of your original positive LFT test is considered day 0. The Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Nick Gent, says, quote, "I encourage persons in the community to still test themselves with a LFT device if they are experiencing COVID-19 symptoms and adhere to our recommended isolation requirements," end quote.
Barbados is one of 13 countries set to benefit from the multi-million-dollar Caribbean Regional Energy Sector Reform Project being rolled out by the United States Agency for International Development, USAID. U.S. Ambassador to Barbados, Linda Tagliata, says it represents her government's commitment to the region and notes many benefits will be delivered from it, while Energy Minister Senator Lisa Cummins welcomed the project, explaining it will assist the government in its energy transformation quest and in meeting some of its energy targets.
The ESR project provides technical assistance to utilities, ministers, and regulators in the Caribbean and to develop policies, laws, regulations, tools, and processes to make energy systems more resilient and modern. This will help Caribbean countries develop more productive and diverse economies for the long term and sustainable economic growth by bolstering energy systems across the region.
Our 2025 targets are now set as follows. We are proposing as a country to have a 20% reduction relative to business as usual emissions without international support. Those are our unconditional commitments. We propose to have a 35% reduction relative to the business as usual emissions, conditional upon international support. International support like the one we're here today to discuss. Our 2030 targets are 35% reduction relative to business as usual emissions without international support, and 70% reduction relative to business as usual emissions, conditional upon international support.
Cuba's ambassador to Antigua and Barbuda, Maria Esther Fife Cabrera, is coming to the end of her duty in the Twin Island state and met with government officials in farewell visits. The close ties between both states were on display as meetings took place on Monday. Here's more in this report.
I would say in your maternal tongue, viva.
Viva Cuba.
Muchas gracias por todo.
Gracias. You speak in Spanish, of course, I felt very happy, very, very glad, because I feel that is the result of studies. That is something which we should be very proud of, that education that in some years you receive in our country. But it says also about the possibility that you have given to us to do something we can do for this beautiful country.
During Ambassador Maria Esther Fife's departure meetings with Prime Minister Honourable Gaston Brown and Minister of Foreign Affairs Honourable Chet Green, both listed the many benefits of her tenure.
Well, let me start by thanking you for your contribution during the last 1.5 years. You have certainly elevated the bilateral relationship between both our countries.
Also built on a platform you inherited of offering scholarships to our young Antiguan and Barbudans in a myriad of academic areas, subject areas. Today our country can boast of a healthy number of health professionals.
Ambassador Fifi highlighted how easy it has been to work with the government.
I would like to thank you for the accessibility we have had in this country. That is something that you cannot find in other countries. So always I call you to your office, to the office of the minister, of all ministers. I have something to see. We have the access immediately. And that is something very important, and the diplomats really appreciate.
The Prime Minister and Foreign Affairs Minister pledged continued support for Cuba as it continues to face the effects of the economic embargo imposed by the United States February 1962.
Thank you, the government, the opposition, the civil society, for the support you have given to my country in this fight against the blockade.
Alicia Humphreys, ABS News.
In Guyana's quest to improve healthcare, the government will soon establish a local pharmaceutical manufacturing plant to address the long wait times previously encountered to access life-saving vaccines on the international market.
Dr. Leslie Ramsamy, who is heading the project to establish a local pharmaceutical manufacturing plant, recently told the newsroom that with the assistance of the Indian government, Guyana will strengthen its healthcare services. India is the world's largest pharmaceutical manufacturer.
One of the problems we faced during the COVID period, and still do, is getting enough vaccines for our people on a timely basis. And so this is an area that we want to address.
Last Thursday, Vice President Dr. Bharat Jagdeo met with India's Health and Family Welfare Minister, and according to a tweet by the minister, issues of bilateral importance in the health sector, including the creation of manufacturing hubs of vaccines, therapeutics, diagnostics and hand-holding, and training of the medical workforce, were discussed. Guyana's aim is to become a manufacturer of medications and vaccines. He said that when the AIDS epidemic became a health threat, there was no access to life-saving medications.
It's not a new need for Guyana. It is not a new ambition for Guyana. We have had that for a long time.
Dr. Ramsamy also noted that a timeline for the plant to be established is still in the works, and explained that Guyana is first building its capacity through the training of healthcare professionals.
Our ambition is to have vaccine production in Guyana. I'm not talking about COVID vaccine, I'm talking about a vaccine manufacturing plant in Guyana. We're talking about expanding our present capacity for pharmaceutical production so we could have it done in Guyana, for Guyana and other countries. We're talking about expanding other medical supplies manufacturing in Guyana.
President Dr. Irfan Ali stated his own intention to upgrade the country's legislative and regulatory framework while investing in the necessary training and development research towards establishing a vaccine production facility. Additionally, Dr. Ali previously said that Guyana will be seeking to develop the framework and infrastructure to not only build a similar facility like BioNTech's mRNA vaccine factory, but to encourage investors in medical research and development. Lazina Yearwood reporting for the newsroom.
In international news, Turkey has begun work to rebuild homes for 1.5 million people whose buildings were destroyed in a series of earthquakes recently. With elections just months away, President Erdogan pledged to rebuild as soon as possible, but his government is under pressure to prioritize safety standards. More from Al Jazeera.
Levent Döner has come back to his neighborhood in Kahramanmaraş to recover his belongings. His family had to move to a village nearby, but Levent says he intends to return as soon as his parents' house is rebuilt.
I want to spend my life in Maraş. I was born here. All I want is a home that is built on solid ground and in line with construction regulations.
Eager to counter growing criticism they acted slowly during the earthquakes, government officials have pledged to finish reconstruction within a year.
Şehrin merkezinde
This is the biggest earthquake mobilization in the history of Turkey. We're establishing new urban planning for affected cities, and we will ensure the cultural and demographic identities of those cities are preserved.
Earthquake debris is being cleared, paving the way for huge construction sites in affected areas. City officials say they are determined to build houses that are going to be stronger, safer and better. Turkish society is divided on how best to move forward after the devastating earthquakes and staggering death toll. The government insists on rebuilding quickly so that those who lost their homes can find a permanent shelter. But for many experts and architects, it's about making sure cities and buildings are designed to withstand powerful earthquakes and save lives. But not everybody is convinced the government is doing the right thing. Borkay Göçyetmez is a construction engineer. He says the authorities should first stop giving zoning amnesties to builders who violate seismic construction codes.
Bunu doğru bulmuyoruz. Çünkü halen sarsıntılar devam ediyor.
With the ongoing aftershocks from time to time, I'm wondering whether rebuilding now is the right thing to do.
The authorities have arrested dozens of builders and a mayor for violating safety standards. For now, victims of the earthquakes continue to deal with grief. They know nothing will ever be able to compensate for the loss of their loved ones. Hashim Al-Bara, Al Jazeera, Kahraman Marash.
In sporting news, we join Al Jazeera as we take a look at some of the highlights of the Man U victory over Newcastle United over the weekend. The victory saw Manchester United's 2-0 victory over Newcastle United in the Carabao Cup final at Wembley.
23 Carabao Cup final. And if United are suffering a trophy drought, then Newcastle are in the midst of the most barren of deserts. Which set of fans are going to be savouring a sweet victory later tonight? Worked this well, Newcastle. The cross could go anywhere. It's flashed right across the face of goal. St Maximum. But that's certainly half a chance for Newcastle.
Well, they certainly look more dangerous than Manchester United in the wider areas. And again, it's this near side, this right-hand side that poses the problem.
So, free kick in a dangerous position. Bruno and Luke Shaw stand over it. Shaw's ball in. The header is fantastic! Manchester United lead. Casemiro, the mighty Brazilian, scores at Wembley. And United strike first in the Carabao Cup final. Manchester United 1, Newcastle 0. Casemiro. And now United coming to make it 2. It's Rashford driven wide. Rashford! He's beaten Karius. Rashford scores. And there's no one better in Europe right now. Karius could not keep it out. Marcus Rashford scores, and United have got 2 quick-fire goals, and they're in command at Wembley.
Great tackle.
Oh, Sabitzer, that's brilliant. Now Rashford. Rashford! Oh, that's an excellent save. It really is from Loris Karius. Three minutes to go. Willock has a go, and it whistles just wide. And I think Davin Hare had kind of given that one up a little bit. Erik ten Hag's 40th game in charge, and is it going to be his first trophy?
And that's the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thank you so much for watching.